Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high-performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So, today, this is take 2. I was doing an episode on overwhelm, and then my doorbell rang, and I lost train of thought and all the things, so we're going to do that episode another day. Today, we're going to continue this discussion, or we're going to start this discussion, I guess. We're going to talk about why external validation will never, ever, ever be enough. And it's actually quite interesting to think of this, right? So, when we're children, our parents celebrate us and congratulate us for literally anything, right? They're like, oh my God, you ate peas. Yay, you ate peas, right? Like, oh, you went poop on the potty. Yay, you went poop on the potty, right? Or you take your first steps, right? You are legitimately externally celebrated for everything. And then at some point, there's less and less external validation because people start to expect things from you. And they're like, well, yeah, you're 5. Of course you're doing that, right? And so then it becomes, okay, well, if they're not giving me the external validation that they gave me when I was 1, then how am I progressing? What am I doing it all for if somebody isn't celebrating me? And this is where that internal motivation has to come in. And unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily kick in for some people. Some people will spend their whole lives waiting to be validated by their parents or by a high school teacher that told them that they were a failure, or by their guidance counselor that said that they were going to end up in jail, right? Like, we could spend our entire lives trying to prove that we're worthy of love from somebody else, because that's really kind of what we see it as. Unbeknownst to us when we're younger, that external validation becomes kind of an input for love, right? Like, oh, they saw me, they celebrated me, they must love me. And so that's why you see a lot of these high achievers burn themselves out, because they're like, well, I have to do more to prove, to get that validation, right? And I'll never forget, what was I doing? I think I had just signed up. I forget what it was, but I remember the conversation with my brother. I think I had just signed up for a half Ironman. And I told my husband about it, and I was so excited about it. And I was like, you know what? This is going to impress my husband. This will impress him, right? And I remember telling him that I was going to do this thing. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And I was so pissed. I was so mad because it wasn't the reaction that I wanted. And so I called my brother and I said, am I just not impressive anymore? And he was like, hold up, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I'm a mom of 4. I stay fit. I eat healthy. I have my Ph.D. I'm running multiple businesses. Like, am I just not impressive anymore? Because I just signed up to do this thing and Steve basically rolled his eyes at me. And my brother said, no, it's not that you're not impressive. The things you do, like, he's like, I'm still in awe of the things that you're able to do. He's like, but your husband's just come to expect it from you. Right? Like, it's no surprise. Like, he wouldn't be shocked if you were like, you know what, I'm going to go scale the Eiffel Tower without any support. That probably wouldn't shock him. Or you were going to set the Guinness Book of World Records for something, right? Like, that probably wouldn't shock him because you're a driven individual. I was like, oh. All right. And so, while my inner child was totally disappointed at the lack of celebration that I got for this thing, I was like, but I'm doing it for me anyways. So do I really need someone to validate me? No. But that lies the problem, right? And I was just having this conversation with my son. We're doing a lot of this mindset work with my son. So a lot of these conversations are going to come through from that. And when we were in St. Augustine last week watching him golf, he was 1 over on this one hole. He got a bogey on the hole. And I watched him look up to his coaches for some sort of acknowledgement whatsoever, and none of them acknowledged him. And I watched his body language change, and he slumped over, and I could legitimately see the negative internal dialogue get started. And so I said something to him a couple days later. I said, honey, who are you golfing for? And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I watched you look to your coaches to be validated for your golf game. And they didn't give it to you, and I watched your body language change. And he goes, oh. Well, yeah, because I'm so excited to call, Uncle Will when I'm doing really well, because I know he'll celebrate with me. And I was like, honey, you've got to start validating yourself. You've got to start showing up just for you, not because somebody else is going to give you the accolades or the pat on the back or whatever it is that you want. You've got to start showing up just for you, because there will never, ever, 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 ever be enough external validation. It will always come up short. Always come up short. And so you have to realize what your motivator is, and it's got to be internal. It's got to be something that you want, not something that you're doing because you think somebody else wants you to do it, or you think somebody else will love you more if you do this thing. That is a slippery slope to burnout. And that is what happens with a lot of high achievers. And I was actually having this conversation with my neighbor the other day. I think I had shared this on a previous podcast, where he bought a new house. And I said, how does it feel? Are you excited about it? And he's like, I don't know how to feel about it. And I looked at him and I said, because you thought it was going to make you feel something. You thought it was going to be a kind of a checkbox moment where you were like, yes, I made it. And it didn't feel like that, did it? And he goes, no. And I said, we need to talk about that more, right? But this is so many of us, right? We have that goal, and we think that goal is going to validate us. It's going to make us worthy of being a coach, of being a business owner, of calling ourselves this or of calling ourselves that. And the truth is, it's the journey to that thing that qualifies that, not the thing itself, right? There's a piece of paper on the wall behind me. If you're watching the YouTube, you can see it. That is my Ph.D. degree, my diploma on the wall back there. And it took me a while to realize that it wasn't the piece of paper that was being celebrated. It was all of the transformations on the way to that piece of paper that were celebrated. I learned so much about myself during that process that I am so grateful that I went through it the way that I went through it. Because it was never about the destination. It was always about the journey along the way. And that's the thing, right? The validation the external validation will never be enough. It's not that end game. It's got to be an internal motivator. Why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? Right? What is going to be your reason that you get out of bed every day? Right? That has to be internally motivated, because at some point the external motivator of it will not be enough. Won't be enough. Period. End of story, right? And so how do you begin to figure out what's motivating you? Well, it's okay to be internally motivated. 1,000%. Because chances are the motivation is actually rooted in something else, and it's probably not super selfish. One of my mentors has her motivation is for me, for you, for us. Right? That's what she says on all of her things. And she talks about for her personal growth, for the growth of the community, right? And then for the growth of the world in general. And she's totally rooted in that. And she shows up in it, and there's never a question as to what the motivator is. And there's no need for the external validation, because she's showing up because it's her sole purpose there. right? And maybe you're like, well, Steph, I don't necessarily believe in a soul purpose. I don't know what that means. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. That's okay. It doesn't have to be a soul purpose. It has to be something that you're willing to get out of bed for. And so for me, right, getting out of bed for a period of time was simply because I was trying to prove something. And then it turned into, you know what? I want to be a great example for my kids. I want to show my kids what's possible because I'm living the life that I want. There's no have-tos in my days. It's I get to. I get to record this podcast. And when you show up in a get-to attitude, that's very, very different from the have-to attitude. And so figure out what that is. Is it for your kids? Is it for your, and maybe, well, Steph, if I'm motivated for my kids, isn't that external validation? No. Not necessarily, depending on how you look at it, right? So for me, it's not because I want my kids to congratulate me and be like, wow, Mom, you're really cool, right? That's not what it's about. It's about being the best version of me for my kids, right? Even if I didn't have the kids, I would still want to be the best version of me. But I want to show them what's possible, what's available for them, if they continue to grow in their lifetimes, if they don't let the fear run them. So I feel like I'm going to end up going down another rabbit trail, so I'm going to sign off here. But I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.